So Rocky has been established as a national park since 1915. One of the biggest wildland-urban interface national parks in the country. Rocky Mountain National Park has more than 3,000 people that live just a mile from the boundary. What exists at Rocky Mountain National Park was not Rocky Mountain National Park prior to 1915. And this ecosystem has experienced wildfires for thousands of years. So it's really hard when a fire is happening and it's impacting people's lives and livelihood to really talk about the benefits of fire, right? Because lodgepole are so dense and thick, sun oftentimes cannot get through that to what might be growing down low. So when you have a fire that moves through a lodgepole pine forest and takes all of those thick, dense forests down, it's amazing what sometimes will start growing underneath once it starts to see sun. You start to see some vegetation grow that maybe you haven't seen for decades or even hundreds of years. And we had some amazing, like what they call super blooms. That always amazes me. You think of this seed structure that was there, and some of those plants only grow after a fire lives through. And you're like, how is that even possible? You have to look at hundreds and hundreds of years versus 10 years. And sometimes that's hard for humans to wrap our brains around that.
I'm an atmospheric scientist. I've been working on climate and climate change for 30 years here in Colorado. I've been a professor at CSU in Fort Collins. I study the interaction of the climate and vegetation.
So Rocky's been around for 109 years, and we've had more fires in the last 15 years than in the park's history. So certainly things are changing and causing this, and climate is certainly part of that.
There was probably 10% of the students who would come to my classes would be a little dismissive, like, oh, come on, you're exaggerating, you're only giving us one side of the story. It can't be as bad as you're saying. And now nobody says that. So more than anything else, they're freaked out, and they want some reassurance. What can we do? How can we make this better? Three most important things about climate change. They all start with the letter S: simple, serious, and solvable. So simple is how does it work? Serious is why is it bad? Solvable is what are we going to do about it? There's sun coming in. There's infrared, being radiated out. And the CO2 that we put in the air gets in the way of the outgoing heat, so the heat accumulates in the air system and it warms up. It may be true that 50 years ago it was all about like environmental problems, but now it's about people. It's about people being harmed. It's about the economy being harmed. It's about people losing their jobs, losing their livelihoods, losing their homes. It's about whether you want to have a prosperous future or not. We can't necessarily make it cooler, but we can stop making it hotter by transitioning our energy systems away from burning coal, oil, and gas and onto solar and wind and nuclear and geothermal and all those other things. Nothing is being done. Nothing has happened. We've been talking about this for 50 years and nobody does anything. Well, that's just not true. We're not helpless. We have the power to make the world better.
That was the biggest one. It was the closest one.
On October 21st, made an 18-mile run, which is pretty unheard of. It started going up in vegetation, and so you're thinking, okay, it eventually is going to run out of fuels. It's going to hit the tundra. It jumped the Continental Divide. That's when it moved into the park. 100-mile-per-hour winds.
That was the first time that they evacuated the whole town. Before, they had only evacuated it a half at a time. But this time they evacuated the whole town, and we really only had about 20 minutes to get ready to leave. And it took 3 or 4 hours just to get through town.
Driving over burning trees that are falling on their car. It was complete congestion, complete chaos, complete fear. We bought the property here in Grand Lake in 2000. Retirement dream. We built the first house. We thought it would be the only one we ever built, but here we are.
And said, go outside and look, and then we could see glow from the fire behind Eagle Cliff.
We had heat where our house should have been on the thermal imaging. It's devastation. We're surrounded.
Educating people on what they can do to make our community safer as a whole, and that starts with mitigation on any property that you own specifically, right? The whole idea is to protect life safety and property.
Working with fire, but then also why it's so important that people outside of the park also practice good, fire-wise, fire prevention, fire mitigation on their properties as well.
Wildfire is a natural resource problem, it always will be, but unfortunately now it's getting to be a public safety problem. So when we lose civilian lives in fires, that's relatively new in Colorado. When we're evacuating entire towns like Estes Park or Granby in the middle of the night, that's new.
All the research has shown that fires have gone more intense, they've grown larger, they burn harder and faster.
The Hayman fire from 2002, which I was on, that was the first fire in Colorado that went over 100,000 acres. And it really, at the time, it was kind of mind-boggling. We never thought we would see anything like that. And that fire stayed as the largest fire in Colorado until 2020.
And that has a lot to do with not only climate change, but also suppressing fires for the last 100 years.
Should we invest in suppression and response or mitigation? And what we say is it's not an or proposition. We have to invest in both. Quick action, detect them early, keep them small, limit the cost, limit the damage.
We wanted to put every fire out, and we've done a really good job at that and getting really good in putting resources and money into that. And now they're starting to shift the vision and realizing that might have hindered us in the long run.
Traditionally, when people think about wildfire mitigation, it's the forest management or the vegetation treatment. So there's no way you can make a house fireproof, but it's trying to make it fire resistant, resilient, and then to give the structure a chance to survive the fire. There's no one easy solution to this or anything, or else we would have done it.
We were part of the prescribed burn process in Rocky Mountain National Park. Neighbors helping neighbors, and they're doing their part to try to protect our community from future fires also, so that's pretty cool to see. General idea is that they burn the understory, again, to introduce that healthy fire, so when fire is not burning as intense.
You have to have really all the right conditions, and you do have to have some wind. So we have fire professionals that work with other experts to figure out when is best to do prescribed fire, but it does make a difference.
We'll never fight our way out of this situation we're in.
I think community awareness obviously is huge. We're all in this together. That's a big mindset I like to have, and